Greetings, Poké fans! Michael here. Real quick before the video gets started, something I want to talk about real quick. YouTube's been having some trouble lately with sending videos to subscribers' feeds properly, so probably several of my videos you may not have even known were posted because they didn't show up in your sub feed. So one way around that, if you like watching my videos and watch them regularly, is that next to the subscribe button, it should say subscribed, and then there's a little bell. If you click that bell, you will be notified via push notification on your phone or email or whatever you set up of every new video I post. So that way, you don't ever miss a video of mine that you want to see. And speaking of that, I know a lot of you guys are big fans of Pokemon Talk, so if you missed it for whatever reason, posted that about a week ago, you can click or tap up in the upper right hand corner to the view the cards and watch the new Pokemon Talk. But enough of that, let's move on to the video. There are over 800 different species of Pokemon that have been introduced in the 20 plus years Pokemon's been around. So as a result of that, there's probably been several instances of you seeing a Pokemon and thinking, hey, that Pokemon it's just like this other old one. I've definitely had the same experience, so I thought it'd be fun to count down the top 10 Pokemon ripoffs. Now, before I get into this, there are several things I must explain, the first of which is, what exactly do I mean when a Pokemon is a ripoff? If a Pokemon has the same design concept as an earlier one, that does not necessarily mean that it is a ripoff. For example, the Rowlet evolutionary line are based on owls, just like Hoot Hoot and Noctowl, but since outside of that the Pokemon are pretty dissimilar, that does not count as a ripoff. What counts as a ripoff is when a Pokemon not only has a similar design concept, but the Pokemon fulfills a similar role. What I mean by a similar role is that it's the water starter, it's the early game normal type, and so on and so forth. However, most of those Pokemon, since those are roles that are in every region, are not ripoffs because the Pokemon themselves, their design concepts are very dissimilar. What needs to happen for a Pokemon to be a ripoff is that their design concept and their role, and several other factors, have to be pretty similar. Of course, no two Pokemon are identical, so just because a Pokemon is on this list doesn't mean it's a complete ripoff, just mostly a ripoff. And also, just because a Pokemon is on this list does not mean it is a bad Pokemon whatsoever. I actually really like several of the Pokemon on this list. It's just, you know, they're still ripoffs. So be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below some Pokemon you think might be on the list, and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, here are the top 10 Pokemon that are total ripoffs. Number 10, Foongus and Amoonguss. Generation 5 served as kind of a soft reboot for the Pokemon franchise, more so Black and White than Black 2 and White 2. The idea of there being no old Pokemon whatsoever in Black and White, prior to the League that is, led to several Gen 5 Pokemon being created to fill similar roles as older Pokemon that the older Pokemon couldn't fill because they weren't in the games. So, spoiler alert, there's gonna be several Gen 5 Pokemon on this list, the first of which are Foongus and Amoonguss, which are total ripoffs of Voltorb and Electrode. Now, clearly the design concepts are not exactly the same. One is a pair of metal balls, and two are mushrooms. Holy crap. The design concept that is similar, though, is that they look like Pokeballs, and as a result, they fill the role of being Pokemon that are in the overworld that look like items, so when you click on it to pick up an item, you end up in a battle with these Pokemon. I did decide to put this entry in last place since, like I said, they share the concept of looking like Pokeballs, but metal balls versus mushrooms is quite dissimilar, but I still think they deserve to be on there because the role they serve is exactly the same. Number 9, Sock and Throw. Sock and Throw are the fighting type counterpart duo of the Unova region. Just like Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee are the fighting type counterpart duo of the Kanto region. These two pairs are very similar to each other. Like I said before, they're fighting type, but in addition to that, they have very similar base stat totals, are always male, and all of them are wearing clothes. Well, okay, Hitmonlee isn't, but you know, he's the wild one. Now there are some differences. Sock and Throw are not gift Pokemon like Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan almost always are, and they don't share a pre-evolution, but all the other similarities that are there definitely constitute Sock and Throw as ripoffs. Number 8, Feebas and Milotic. Feebas and Milotic are ripoffs of Magikarp and Gyarados, a weak, practically useless fish that becomes an extremely powerful serpent when it evolves. Magikarp and Feebas also have quite a lot of other similarities, such as having the exact same base stat total, sharing the ability Swift Swim, and having the exact same level up moveset of Splash, Tackle, and Flail. Milotic and Gyarados have quite a few similarities as well, albeit fewer. They have the same base stat total and share some level up moves, but that's about it. They're obviously very different looking Pokemon, but the fact that Magikarp goes from being a weak fish into a super strong serpent, and then Feebas does the exact same thing, I think that constitutes Feebas and Milotic as ripoffs. Number 7, the Conkeldurr line. The Conkeldurr evolutionary line is a massive ripoff of the Machamp evolutionary line, because oh my gosh, these things are incredibly similar. Speaking specifically about Conkeldurr and Machamp, both of them are pure fighting types, have a 75 to 25 male to female ratio, a 505 base stat total, reach their final form via trade evolution, have a possible ability in Guts, and the list goes on and on. The design concepts are reasonably different. You have Machamp, who is a four-armed buff man, whereas Conkeldurr is a different shaped veiny buff man who carries construction materials, so they're kind of different, I guess, but the amount of similarities that they have, which is very, very high, definitely constitutes Conkeldurr being a Machamp ripoff. Number 6, Woobat. Woobat is Zubat. It is a bluish colored bat that is annoying in caves. Heck, its name even rhymes. In addition to that, they are both classified as the Bat Pokemon. Both of them evolved by friendship at some point in the evolutionary line, and both of them do not use their eyes, if they have eyes. Now, I am only talking about Woobat here since Swoobat is pretty dissimilar to Golbat and Crobat, but Woobat to Zubat is very similar and definitely constitutes Woobat being a Zubat ripoff. Number 5, the Gigalith line. Remember how I said I actually really like some of the Pokemon on this list? Gigalith is definitely one of them. He is actually on my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time list. But even so, him and his pre-evolutions are still definitely ripoffs of the Geodude evolutionary line. Both are rock types that start out as tiny rocks with little limbs, but the similarities go way beyond that. They both evolve at the exact same time and methods. Goes from basic form to second form at level 25, and then to get to the third form, it's a trade evolution. It's exactly the same for both lines, and in addition to that, they both have the ability Sturdy, and they're both in the Mineral Egg group, and I'm sure there's even more than those. In addition, they both have identical roles of being rocks in caves that won't leave you alone. In every single region that they are available prior to battling the League, Graveler and Boldore are available in the Victory Road. All of them. And yes, I'm counting Vast Pony Canyon as the Victory Road in Sun and Moon because it effectively is. So the Gigalith line, being similar rocks that were introduced many years later, means that they are ripoffs of the Geodude line. But I still like the Gigalith line a lot more because Gigalith is so cool. Number 4, Alomomola. When this Palindrome Pisces was introduced back in Gen 5, everyone was pretty certain it was gonna be a new evolution of Luvdisc. It isn't. They actually don't really have any relationship at all. Which is weird, because these two fish are pretty freaking identical, except one of them is bigger. Both of them are pink, heart-shaped, tall and skinny fish that spread goodwill, whether it's healing injuries or making people fall in love. And in addition to that, they also both have the ability Hydration and are in the Water 2 Egg group. The fact that they look so similar and have other similarities, but they aren't part of the same evolutionary line, makes me think that Alomomola is a ripoff of Luvdisc. Number 3, Buffalant. Buffalant is a Tauros with an afro and horn jewelry. They look so similar. They're both bull-like big beasts with upward tilting horns. But the similarities do not end there. No, they are both normal type, have the same base stat total, the same catch rate, and the same amount of steps required to hatch their eggs. It's ridiculous. Now some of you are gonna be like, hey no, Tauros is a bull, Buffalant is a buffalo. I guess maybe you can kinda say that, but they just have so many similarities that Buffalant is definitely a Tauros ripoff. Number 2, Audino. In the Pokemon anime, Chansey was always the Pokemon assisting Nurse Joy in the Pokemon Center when healing Pokemon. That is until Gen 5 when Ash went to Unova and all of the Chansey were replaced by Audino. The Pokemon. I'm not saying I don't know what they were replaced by. They were replaced by Audino. Audino, whatever you want to call it. Audino is just like Chansey in so many ways. Not only does it fill the exact same role of being the Pokemon Center healer, but they are also both normal type. They both are pink colored. They're both tricky to find in the wild. They share the ability Healer. They both yield a lot of experience when you defeat them, and get this, they are the exact same height. Down to the inch. Oh my god. Now obviously there are differences about whether they evolve or mega evolve, and one of them is an egg-like Pokemon and the other one's just like a woman wearing a jacket, I guess? I don't know what Audino is, but you can't deny that all of those massive amount of similarities definitely means Audino was created to be a Chansey replacement and therefore a ripoff. Number 1, the Pikachu clones. This entry is number 1 because there's so freaking many of them, and there's new ones every single generation, and they're gonna continue popping up. Every single generation of Pokemon has introduced a ripoff of Pikachu, hence the name Pikachu clone. The only one that can maybe be excluded is Pichu, since it's another part of Pikachu's evolutionary line, so it's not as much of a ripoff as the other ones, but it still counts. But Plusle, Minun, Pachirisu, Emolga, Dedenne, and Togedemaru are all electric rodents that have been designed to be ripoffs of Pikachu. And the similarities don't end there. They all have cheek pouches. Almost all have kept their Japanese names in the English versions, except for Plusle and Minun. Almost all of them have been owned by a traveling buddy of Ash, except for Plusle and Minun, and almost all have at least one ability that makes them immune to electric type attacks, except for Plusle and... Oh wait, no, actually this one's Dedenne. Considering we've been getting a new one of these every generation for quite some time, we're probably going to continue to get new Pikachu clones every generation. And while I don't hate these Pokemon by any means, they are definitely the biggest ripoffs of any Pokemon. So there we have it. Those are the top 10 Pokemon that are total ripoffs. Honestly, I'm impressed there weren't a lot more than this, because there's 800 freaking Pokemon and there's gonna be more, so the fact that there's only a few examples of this is pretty impressive. Nice work, Game Freak. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with my list? What are some other Pokemon you think are total ripoffs of earlier Pokemon? Let me know down in the comments below! And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're not already subscribed, you definitely should. I make a bunch of fun Pokemon content that I'm sure you will enjoy, especially with Ultra Sun and Moon coming out very, very soon. Alright, that's all I have for now. So till next time, fans, gotta catch them all!